My name, Armin Meiwes. I was born 1961. I'm computer engineer from Rotenburg, Germany. I killed a man, slaughtered him and ate him. Since then, he is always with me.
Armin Meiwes was born in 1961 into relative comfort in a massive manor house in the countryside of West Germany. In the eyes of the world, he grew up to be a quiet, inconspicuous man, but this beautiful house, at the hands of Meiwes, would become the scene of a brutal, real-life horror film that disgusted the world. He became the consensual cannibal after killing, slaughtering and eating a willing participant. As a child, he was the youngest of 3 sons, the runt of the litter. But he was soon left abandoned when his father and 2 brothers left home when he was 8. He was left with an overbearing, bitter mother who by this time hated men. Much like many future killers, his relationship with his mother was strange.
You were involved in the campus because your mother worked there?
Yes. I was also involved in killing co-eds because my mother was associated with college work, college co-eds, women, and had a very strong and violently outspoken position on men for much of my upbringing. My mother was a sick, angry, hungry, and very sad woman. I hated her, but I wanted to love my mother. And I watched the alcohol increase, I watched her social life drop off, I watched her get bizarre. She had terrible pain from her life, earlier life, her upbringing, a failed marriage with my father. I'm a constant reminder of that failure. I hate to distill it down into such, into one-word realities like that. There's a lot that leads into that happening, but that is what happened. They represented not what my mother was, but what she liked, what she coveted, what was important to her, and I was destroying it.
She effeminated him by calling him the German girl's name, Männchen. He also was a Cinderella-esque figure, scrubbing and cleaning the house and doing menial tasks for his wicked mother. Armin was also forced by his mother to wear long outdated traditional lederhosen to school, leaving him open to ridicule from classmates. In the tiny village of Worsterfeld, he grew up isolated and relied on his imagination for companionship. He cultivated an imaginary friend, a little brother named Frankie. He was worried that his only friend Frankie would leave him, and he began to believe that the only way to keep him from leaving would be to eat him. This would mean he would be inside him forever, talking to him like a kind of self-inflicted schizophrenia. It was said that the German story of Hansel and Gretel and Robinson Crusoe strongly influenced the young, isolated boy into thoughts of cannibalism whilst in the crucial brain development age of around 10. He also hung around the local butchers and watched them slice and dissect carcasses for hours. He also used to spend his days dissecting dolls and grilling their body parts. His thoughts of consuming someone to absorb them into his soul is strikingly similar to Japanese cannibal Issei Segawa. Later, his advancing puberty would merge sexual excitement with this weird fascination, creating a weird and potentially deadly paraphilia. Not only this, he would begin to repress his homosexual urges, as his mother highly frowned upon this. He would even bring home fake girlfriends to his mother, but rather than be pleased, she believed that Meiwes was too good for them. She chaperoned him on dates and attended social gatherings with him. Much of the healthy boundaries of mother and son were broken.
What Freud observed was that there were usually not very good boundaries in families like that. And so the relationship between the husband and the wife was either strained or non-existent. And the wife would often turn to the child to be what she isn't getting from the husband. And so the reason she does that is because she's lonesome and doesn't have anybody else around. And maybe she's also deeply, deeply, deeply terrified that if she helps that boy grow up, he will leave and she'll have nothing. And that's the motivation, for the woman who's nothing but protective mother. There's no role outside of nurturant of infants. Well, you just keep them infants. They'll never leave. They might kill you one night in your sleep, but they'll never leave.
His mother also played on her imagination to deal with the misery of her life. She created an idyllic vision in her mind. She would pretend she was the lady of the manor, dressing up in medieval clothing and using her son as a servant. In 1981, he got his first chance of freedom and his first chance at proper socialisation when he joined the army. He had a 12-year stint in the army in which his cravings were controlled under the rigorous routine of the forces. In 1993, he returned home to his needy mother. He began reaching out to other cannibals online, posting doctored images of slaughtered animals to look like humans. This is where he began to find like-minded individuals. And when his mother died in 1999, he no longer had to hide his homosexual, cannibalistic desires. He began to renovate the dilapidated home, adding some unique features. He added a slaughter room with its own handmade cage. He began posting on the now infamous Cannibal Cafe. This was a cannibal fetish site where people got off on the thought of being eaten or eating someone else. This website is now unavailable, but the gruesome messages of some users can be found using the Wayback Machine. Meiwes would use the online name Frankie to find prey. This was in homage to his imaginary little brother. He posted the broken English advert asking, "I search a young boy between 18 and 25. Have you a normal body? I butchering you and eat your horny flesh." After an initial time waster, he received a response from 43-year-old Bernd Brandes. Brandes, on the face of it, was a straight man with a history of girlfriends. He even had a steady girlfriend when he met Meiwes. However, he secretly visited gay brothels in Berlin where he would ask to be whipped until his skin bled. He also had a sick fascination with self-castration and would ask prostitutes to bite it off. However, not even in that disturbing realm of work was anyone willing to do it. Under the subject name dinner, he replied to the ad with, "I offer to let myself be eaten alive. No slaughter, but eating." The pair met at a local train station where Meiwes drove them back to his place. Shortly after arriving, Brandes stripped naked and asked Meiwes to admire his dinner. Brandes himself had been starving himself all day to make his meat taste better. The pair also had sex before the act, but according to Meiwes, Brandes criticised his lovemaking, telling him he didn't inflict enough pain on him. However, this initial meeting was a disaster and Brandes changed his mind. And, as a true gentleman, Meiwes accepted this consent and drove him back to the train station. But Brandes would again change his mind. As agreed, the whole ordeal would be filmed. A number of sleeping pills were bought and consumed by Brandes, along with cough syrup and schnapps. This would dull him enough for the castration. However, it seemed harder than one would think. Firstly, Meiwes tried to bite it off, which did not work. Then a kitchen knife, and then, finally, a sharp butcher knife to it off. The pain of castration is described as the strongest pain that can be inflicted. Bernd Brandes offered up his by placing it on the table. When it was cut off, he screamed in agony for around 30 seconds. However, after the pain subsided, he looked down in sheer pleasure at the gaping wound, shooting blood like a fountain.
He wanted to experience pain that was so bad it would kill him, pain that would destroy him. Obviously he yelled. He was standing at the table and he sprang backwards. The blood was spurting out, and after 30 seconds he stopped yelling and said, "It doesn't hurt anymore." He felt no more pain, and he actually said that he was free from pain, and he was happy that the blood, horrible to say it now, was spurting out.
For him, his sexual destruction was the ultimate orgasm.
Brandes wanted to achieve the ultimate orgasm, sexual orgasm, and he wanted to destroy his own body.
The two men tried to eat the small piece of flesh, but it was too chewy. Then Meiwes fried it up with garlic. However, this monumental sacrifice was destroyed when it was burned black and unedible. Savagely, it was tossed to the dog to eat. Brandes was placed in a bath of warm water to slowly bleed out. Meiwes, showing his lack of empathy and traits of psychopathy, was able to go into another room and calmly read a Star Trek book. Some hours later, to finish the job, he slit his throat and hung him up on a meat rack like a cow carcass. There he decapitated him, split him in two vertically, and began butchering him and preserving his meat in blue freezer boxes. Allegedly, that night he set the table using his best china, grilled a rump steak and ate him with a fine bottle of red wine.
I had prepared the meal as a special occasion and decorated the table with nice candles. I took out my best dinner service. I fried a piece of rump steak, a piece from his back, made what are called princess potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. Then, after I'd prepared my meal, I ate it.
He began to eat the meat, and before he was caught, it was estimated that 20 kilograms was consumed. He even minced the meat to make meatballs as it was more palatable. Meiwes got sexual gratification from re-watching the slaughter video and would do so often. Now there does exist a grotesque video of the death which was sealed by police after the trial. Many, morbidly curious, have tried to find it, but as of yet there has been no video leak. Images, on the other hand, are freely available on the internet if you have a strong stomach. I recommend against searching for them, but be warned if you do. The death of Brandes did not satisfy him for long, and he again posted an ad looking for a new submissive participant. Insanely, he posted some of the sickening slaughter images on Cannibal Cafe to try and entice the next person. A 23-year-old student named Reinhold contacted Meiwes to gather information about the cannibalization. Reinhold then alerted the police and the 60-bedroom manor house was raided. When the police raided the house in December 2002, they found a large freezer with a false bottom. Underneath it was packed with strange meats. Meiwes claimed the meat packs were cuts of wild pig. However, it was that of Brandes' butchered body. As there is no law against cannibalism in Germany, as there isn't in the UK, he was originally jailed for only 8 years for manslaughter. Cannibalism is a taboo subject, yet something that has happened since the dawn of time and still does today. However, in 2006 he brought a retrial as he believed he was completely innocent. But, driven by international outrage more than objective justice, he was sentenced to life for murder. The deciding factor was the sexual motivation of the crime. This I believe to be a punishment outweighing the crime. After all, Brandes was a willing victim throughout, and Meiwes supplied him with the perfect death. A soldier's death of the sick and twisted. To him it was a blissful, beautiful death, an assisted suicide urged on in the ecstatic fantasy and reality of it. Later on in interviews, he described the taste of human flesh. He said it tasted like pork, but a bit more harsh.
Flesh tastes like pork, but stronger, more substantial.
Perhaps this is why human meat in the cannibal community is called long pig. However, Meiwes may soon be out anyway. It emerged in 2018 that he was rejected early release. But it seems the model prisoner is being groomed for life outside again. He is allowed out on guarded day release to reintegrate him into society. When he will fully be released is yet to be made clear, but it does not look like long. Another thing that comes to mind is just how many cannibals there are out there, browsing chat rooms, inviting willing participants over to be slaughtered. Just by mathematical probability, Meiwes is not the only one to have butchered someone in this way, and there may be many highly active, highly organised cannibals killing, slaughtering and eating for fun, lost forever in the shadows of the internet, lurking in wait for their next victim.